Welcome back. In this part of the video, we are going to be creating the join operation. And so let's move with the practical. So expand the resource pane and go to data flows and create a new data flow. What we are going to do is perform the join operation on our department.txt and employee.txt file. So let's add source. So click on add source, the first source option. So what we need to do is create a data set, go to new. The dataset type is Azure Data Lake Gen 2. The file type is CSV because it's comma separated values. Now click on continue. The link service will remain the same. No need to worry about that. Now let's select our employee.csv file. So go to employee container and employee.txt. So this all is fine. Now let's also change the name of our source. Let's give employee source, and let's also enable data flow debug. Contains invalid alphanumeric. Okay, don't worry. So space should be the issue. This should be fine. Now let's go to projection. So by default, when you create a source in data flow, it treats all of the columns as string. So that can and mostly cause problem later on. So what we are going to do is convert it from from string to integer. So employee ID will be integer, phone number will also be integer, and we can convert others as well, but currently only employee ID is needed for uh, join performance. So also department ID. So let's convert it to integer as well. So mainly convert all those what we need for some further operations. You can convert all of them if you need to. So now let's, okay, our data flow debug is currently under progress. So let's wait for it to preview our data. Our data flow debug is now active. So let's preview our data and refresh. This will give us the employee source data that is in CSV format. Let's wait for it to fetch our data. And here you can see our employee data is present. And let me zoom out so that you can see. And first name, last name, email, hire date, and everything else. Now let's create a source for department table as well. So go on to the add source and let's give the name as department source. And let's also select the data set. This will be the department container. Inside that, the department file. We will use the same link service, file system, department, and department.txt. Okay. And let's also change the projection of department ID, and rest all is fine. Go to data preview. Let's refresh. So why we are changing only the department ID? Because we are going to be performing the join operation using the department ID. So let's preview our data. Here you can see department ID, department name, and others. So the next thing we want to do is perform the join operation. So let's create a join condition or the join activity. To do so, click on this plus icon, and here the first option is join. So let's expand this. So the stream is employee source. The right stream, you will select department source. Okay, made a spelling mistake. That's all right. So what the join condition will be? The join condition will be the department ID. So let's select the department ID. So inside the right column or the department source, we will also select the department ID. Now you can see there is no type mismatch. Let's and you can see the department IDs. We want to perform the join operation. So let's preview our data. We can also turn this into single partitioning that will only create a single file when we want to paste our data into a new folder. So let's go to data preview, and here you can see employee ID, first name, last name, and others according to the department ID is been converted. Let me zoom in again. So after zooming in, you can't see the data, but it's all right. Okay, I can't do that as well, so don't worry. Now let's create a sink, and let me zoom out a little bit. So I want to create a sink and store the data into the employee department container. And let me show you the container again. So we will be storing our joint data in the employee department container. So let's create a sink, and let's give the name as employee department. And now let's select the data set, create new, inside Azure Data Lake J2, continue, file type CSV, continue, the same link service, and in here we will select the employee department container, click on OK, OK, and it's done. So let's again preview our data. This is fine. So let me show you the first as well. Now our data set for sync is complete as well. So we want to apply some aggregation logic as well. So let's do that inside the data flow. So after the join, click on this plus icon and we will select the aggregate. So inside here, we will perform some aggregation logic or aggregation function. So it has added the aggregate function here only. So what we can do is, let me add a sync. So after the join function, it will perform into the sync. So this will be, let's cut this sync, and this will be, let's also cut this. Can I just, um, so let's create another sync here as well and another sync here. So what we are going to do is perform the aggregate. So what column we want to perform the aggregate by, let me give, and the first one is department name, and we want to perform by another column. The second one, let me show you. And so we want to perform the aggregation by department and job. So that will be the job ID. So let's select job ID as well. And here is the job ID. So what aggregate we want to perform? Let's give a new column name. That will be the salary. And let's go to expression builder. And what will be the expression? Sum of salary. Now save and finish. There's a type mismatch. Um, Let me solve this. Go to join. Okay, join. Wait a second. So how we can solve this? So let's go to our employee source and let's change the salary from string to integer. Then it will be able to perform the sum. Let's do the same in department projection. There is nothing here. Let's go in join, no issue. And here let's see salary is integer. Now this should not give us the issue. And let me zoom in. Now let's preview our data for the aggregate. Let's refresh. So this will aggregate our data according to the job ID and department name. Here you can see the shopping department, job ID, and salary. This is the new column, which will be the sum of salary. Now let's change the sync for aggregate, and second sync will be for the employee department, which will be the join. So let's go to sync 1. Let's select a new data set, data lake gen 2, file type CSV, continue the same link service. This time we will give the aggregated container and okay. Let's wait for it to be set. Now this join. So we have had the join. Now let's do the sync 2. So we have already created the data set for that, but I actually do not remember which one it was, which was probably should be 5, but don't worry, we can also create it again. So let's create it again, data lake gen 2, CSV, and link service. Now this will be the employee department. Okay, okay, and let's preview our data for here as well. And this is all right. So let me give you a recap of what we did. So first thing we did was created an employee source and a department source. We getting data from employee container and department container. Then we performed a join operation, and the join operation we performed using the inner join, and the conditions was department ID. So we changed the schema type for both employee source for department ID to integer. That will cause no issues. Then we perform aggregate. So aggregate was according to department name and job ID. So group by, you can see department name and job ID. And the aggregate we performed was the sum of salary. And then we stored that data into the sink, and that sink was the aggregated container. Then using the join, we created another sink for the join. So another join, this we stored this data into the employee department container. So now we need to run this data flow. How we can do that? So expand the resources pane and let's create a new pipeline. Let's give pipeline 2, and this pipeline 2 was data transformation as in the flowchart. So let's give the name as, okay, we can't give that, so just give data, let's find data transformation. And now what we can do is drag this data flow that we created onto the pipeline area, and let's close this. Now to run our pipeline, let's click on this debug icon, and this will transfer our data. So let's wait for the data to be transferred. We can also trigger the pipeline right now, but we have to go to publish all. That's also another option. Let's wait for the data flow debug, and it's currently under progress. It will take only a few seconds. Right, and successfully. So let's go back to the containers and the data. So our data became employee department, and you can see part file. This will show the data, and here it is, the combined data according to the department ID. And let me give you the aggregated data as well. So aggregated part, edit, click view, and here you can see the job ID and department name and the sum of salary. That is all for this session. Thank you.